Welcome back, everyone, to the Unseen Wisdom, where we take those news stories you may have caught a glimpse of, and we really dig in, try to pull out the important stuff.
Yeah, the stuff that really matters, right?
Absolutely, the insights.
Yeah.
So today we're going to be diving into all the buzz surrounding the eight-tatting provincial government and their pretty big push to bring in investments and jumpstart that economic growth.
Right. A lot of talk about it in the news lately.
Yeah, for sure. We've been going through a bunch of different articles, trying to piece together a clearer picture.
Synthesize it all, right?
Exactly. Trying to get a sense of, what exactly are they proposing and what could this actually mean down the road? So it's a big question we're tackling today. Can they actually deliver on these promises?
Right.
And if they do, how does this benefit the entire nation, not just HAT?
Right, because that's the bigger picture.
Right.
That's what we're here to explore.
Exactly. Okay, so first things first, one of the big things we're seeing in the news is this blueprint, this plan to really reignite the economy. And it's not just about fixing things here and there. It's about like a whole revamp, restoring essential services, rebuilding.
The foundations, yeah.
Yeah, the very foundation for growth.
Yeah.
It's a huge undertaking.
Absolutely. And the financial commitment that we're seeing reported, billions of rands set aside for essential infrastructure. I mean,
Wow.
roads, water, electricity, sanitation, even stormwater systems. It's huge.
It's a big deal. And the way they're framing this, it's not just about fixing what's broken. It's about restoring dignity to communities.
Right.
So it's tying in this social dimension to the economic goals, which is...
Really interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Because if you think about it, reliable infrastructure, that's really the foundation
It is.
for any kind of stable investment climate.
Right?
Businesses need that assurance,
Right.
whether they're local or international.
Yeah.
They need to know that the lights are going to stay on, the water's going to run.
Exactly.
These basic things.
Yeah.
It sounds like there's a recognition of that
Yeah.
in this commitment.
Yeah. Now, stepping back a bit from the Hing specific stuff,
Right.
there's this bigger picture, this continental level opportunity that's being talked about.
Yeah.
And it's about trade, right?
Yeah. Trade rules.
Yeah.
That could really unlock the potential of Africa's agricultural and agri-processing industries.
And that's huge. Huge.
Yeah, because we're talking about African economic independence in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. The news uses this example of pharmaceuticals, right?
Okay.
In 2019, Africa imported over $16 billion in pharmaceutical products.
Wow, that's a lot.
That's $16 billion that could have represented jobs, investments in local manufacturing, the development of skills right here on the continent, but instead
Went somewhere else.
it went somewhere else.
Yeah.
So they're talking about harmonizing these rules for recognizing pharmaceutical products across Africa so that if it's made in one country, it can be sold in another more easily.
Oh. Encourage local production, instead of importing everything.
Makes sense.
And the AFCFTA Secretariat, they're on board with this.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, they're ready to work with governments to identify investment opportunities.
So it's not just talk.
No, it seems like they're ready to make it happen.
Okay, so that's really promising.
Yeah, this intra-African trade, it could be a huge driver of growth across the entire continent.
Wow. Okay, so back to Aishing now.
Right.
We're hearing a lot about the automotive industry.
Yeah.
Big advancements in technology, but also some pretty serious challenges.
What's really striking is the level of automation that's being implemented, like Ford, for example. They've got this highly automated body shop. A chassis plant is the only one like it in the world that Ford operates. And they even have on-site body panel stamping, which is, huge.
Wow, so they're really investing in that advanced manufacturing within the province.
Absolutely.
And it sounds like this is actually leading to better cars, too.
Yeah, improved vehicle quality. That's what we're seeing.
Yeah.
So it's not just about robots taking jobs.
Right.
There are still over 5,200 people employed between Ford's facilities in Silverton and Port Elizabeth.
Yeah, but the news also highlights some big hurdles that need to be addressed, right?
Yeah, things that are holding them back from being truly competitive globally.
Like what?
Well, we're talking about port efficiency,
Right.
rail networks, policy bottlenecks. These are things that add cost and delays.
And that's a big problem.
Huge. And then there's the electricity issue, which is a massive problem for any industry, but especially one that's as energy intensive as automotive manufacturing.
Yeah, and then of course we have those global supply chain issues that are still lingering.
It's a complex web, right? And any disruption, whether it's geopolitical or logistical, can have a ripple effect.
It all comes back to bite you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, and the news reminds us that The success we've seen in the automotive sector, the jobs it's created, the contribution to GDP, that's the result of 30 years of strategic decisions.
Yeah, it didn't happen overnight.
Not at all. So there's a real need to protect that legacy.
Absolutely. If we don't fix these problems, the ports, the rail, the electricity, we risk losing our competitive edge and seeing those investments go elsewhere.
Right, right. So in light of all of this, the 18 government has this goal
Yeah, it's a big one.
to become like a global hub.
Yeah, for investment, tourism, strategic partnerships, the whole package.
And they're putting themselves out there. They're going to be at the 2025 World Economic Forum in Davos.
Which is huge.
It's a big stage.
Absolutely. It's a chance to rub shoulders with the world's movers and shakers, be part of conversations about geopolitics, African growth strategies, the energy transition.
And they're promoting some key sectors, right? We talked about automotive, but there's also advanced manufacturing, ICT and technology, transport, agriculture, mining, and energy.
Like a broad range.
It is. And there's a real focus on addressing inequality
Absolutely.
and supporting SMEs.
Yeah, we're seeing reports of over 1,200 SMEs that have been supported since 2020,
Wow, that's a lot.
with a good number of those being owned by women and young people, so that's positive.
Yeah, that's great. And then there's this Township Industrial Parks program, which is interesting.
Yeah, trying to bring businesses from historically disadvantaged communities into the mainstream.
Yeah, really trying to help them grow.
Exactly. Sectors like furniture, textiles, transport, logistics, things like that.
Yeah, it's about leveling the playing field in a lot of ways.
Right.
Okay, so there's also talk about these 5 development corridors.
Yes, within the Aging City region.
Right, and they've got this whole investment project book.
Yeah, laying out all the opportunities, making it clear for potential investors what's out there.
So it's not just talking, they're putting it all out there.
Exactly. And we're already seeing results. Billions of rands and pledges from different countries and companies.
Really?
Yeah, targeted at specific projects, automotive, ICT, manufacturing, infrastructure, energy, chemicals, even aviation. It's exciting.
It sounds like it, yeah.
Yeah.
And they're really pushing those public-private partnerships.
The PPPs.
Yeah.
Sharing the risk, sharing the rewards.
It's a smart strategy.
It is. And the government is really stepping up, saying they're going to improve the whole project process from the planning stages to execution.
So they're not just saying, hey, come invest. They're saying, we're going to help you make it happen.
Right. They're going to help mitigate the risks, make sure everything's investor ready.
Okay, so it's more than just talk. There's real action behind it.
That's what it seems like.
And this focus on collaboration, it goes beyond just agenting, right?
Yeah. The news really emphasizes that partnership is key for the whole country, for Africa.
Yeah, and that's where the Africa Continental Free Trade Area comes in.
But AFCFTA,
Yeah.
huge opportunity for South Africa to access a massive market.
And the government's working to lower the cost of doing business here, which is crucial.
Right. Addressing things like electricity costs and reliability, transport logistics, those regulatory burdens, all those things that can make it tough for businesses.
Yeah, for sure. And they're pointing to the successes of the special economic zones.
The SEZs, like the Swan one, anchored by Ford, Tambo, Coega.
These are examples of what can be achieved with focused effort.
Absolutely.
And we're also seeing these strategic partnerships being formed, like with Japan.
Yeah, focusing on green hydrogen,
Yeah.
battery technologies, those cutting-edge fields.
And then there's all this talk about the potential of MSMEs.
Huge potential, right?
Yeah, they can really drive economic expansion, create jobs.
Absolutely. And plating has these great research institutions, a strong financial sector, that could really help these businesses grow and innovate.
Right, so there's a real ecosystem there to support them.
And it's not just about throwing money at the problem. The news talks about finding innovative ways to support MSMEs, understanding their specific challenges.
Right. So when we talk about attracting investment, it makes us think about what it really takes to transform an economy.
Yeah, the ingredients for success, right?
Oh.
Well, there's this framework that's often cited, macroeconomic stability, microeconomic efficiency, sound policies, effective institutions, good leadership, geographical advantages, openness to the world.
The whole recipe, isn't it?
It is. And the news uses this interesting example of Costa Rica.
Okay.
They really transformed their economy in about 15 years by focusing on key things: improving education, opening up their aviation sector, modernizing customs, ensuring a reliable electricity supply.
So it shows that it can be done.
It does.
Yeah, we're already seeing some positive examples in Beijing, right? Like Ford's continued investment in the automotive sector, that new malting factory that's sourcing barley from local farmers.
Yeah, the chemicals industry focusing on import substitution. These are all good signs.
Creating jobs, stimulating the economy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the goal is to really ramp up investment in Beijing to 800 billion rands in the coming years.
That's a big jump.
It is. But they're talking about the snowball effect. One investment leads to another, and so on.
It's about creating that momentum, that positive cycle.
Exactly. So what makes HE Yixing stand out?
What's their unique selling proposition?
Yeah, exactly. Well, according to the news, they've got a sophisticated public-private partnership framework, a skilled workforce, a young population. They're strategically located as the economic hub of Africa, and they have a supportive government.
Sounds good.
Yeah, but the news also stresses the importance of policy certainty, especially for those big infrastructure projects.
Right, those long-term investments need a stable environment.
And they're really talking up the need for genuine partnership between the public and private sectors.
Not just talking shops, but actual collaboration.
Yeah, getting things done together.
Working towards those shared goals.
And there's a real sense of optimism about the future.
Yeah, a bullish outlook.
Yeah, definitely. And the Gauteng Growth and Development Agency, the GGDA, they're playing a key role.
Absolutely. They're like a matchmaker, bringing investors and opportunities together.
And problem solvers, too.
Yeah.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about infrastructure.
The backbone.
Exactly. It's all about transport networks, energy, digital connectivity, efficient logistics. These are make-or-break factors in today's world.
No question about it.
And we're seeing these ambitious plans to expand the GO train.
Which is a big deal.
Yeah, a necessary investment.
Absolutely. Improving connectivity is crucial.
And the news really hammers home this point about having well-prepared infrastructure projects, fully de-risked, ready to go.
Right, for those financial decisions, yeah.
Yeah.
The preparation is key.
So it's not just about having an idea, it's about having a plan.
Exactly.
And then there's the whole digital side of things.
Right, the data centers, the connectivity.
It's all about the digital economy.
Yeah, and its potential contribution to GDP growth is huge.
But we also have to think about the energy demands of all this technology, especially artificial intelligence.
AI is energy hungry.
It is, so we need sustainable solutions to power it all.
Absolutely. We need to think long term.
Yeah. And the news talks about embracing these technologies like AI and really rethinking our approach to education and skills development.
It's about preparing for the future.
Right, absolutely, yeah. And we're already seeing some really interesting applications of AI, like detecting fuel theft on pipelines.
Yeah, very practical uses.
And wearables, too, and healthcare, safety, security.
Lots of possibilities.
Yeah, and they're talking about making logistics more efficient, really modernizing the whole transport infrastructure.
It's all connected.
It is. So let's zoom out again and look at the government's overall vision. The deputy president has been really vocal about making Beijing a top global investment destination.
Yeah, that kind of high-level support is really important.
It sends a signal, right?
Absolutely.
And they're looking to other successful models like Beijing's long-term development plan.
They even had a benchmarking trip to China back in 2008.
Interesting. So they're not just making this up as they go along.
No, they're learning from the best.
Yeah, and then there's the Gauteng 2030 plan.
Yeah, creating a capable state, empowered citizens.
Yeah, it's about sustainable and inclusive growth.
Social and economic drivers, making sure everyone benefits.
Exactly. And the integrated transport master plan, that's a key part of it.
Yeah, integrating all the different modes of transport, promoting public transport, making it all more digital.
The GO train is a great example of that.
Absolutely, it's a success story.
And the ultimate goal is to really increase Beijing's contribution to the national GDP, going beyond that 34% it's currently at.
It's ambitious.
It is, but they're looking to diversify into new sectors, technology, innovation, renewable energy.
Those are the growth areas.
They are. And the message is clear, right? Investment isn't just about making money.
It's about building a better future.
Exactly, for people, for communities, for the nation.
Yeah, it's about partnerships.
And Beijing has a really important role to play in helping South Africa as a whole reach that 3% economic growth target.
They're a key player.
They are. And they keep stressing the importance of efficient infrastructure.
It's the foundation for everything.
It is, yeah. And they're also talking about revitalizing those inner cities.
Yeah, making them attractive to investors, creating jobs.
And then there's the issue of crime.
A big one, right.
Yeah, it really impacts investment.
Of course, who wants to invest in a place that's not safe?
Exactly. So they're working on that, cracking down on crime, especially those extortion rackets at construction sites.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. So they're really aiming for a Helleting that's peaceful, secure, where everyone benefits from the economic growth.
A positive vision.
It is, yeah. And just to sum up, the key investment opportunities they've identified are manufacturing and industrialization, ICT and the digital economy, infrastructure and transportation, green energy and sustainability, and support for SMEs.
It's a comprehensive plan.
It is, it is. So after all of this, what are your main takeaways? What should our listeners be thinking about? Can Helleting deliver on these promises? And how will this impact the nation as a whole?
Well, the planning is impressive, that's for sure. And they've clearly identified the key sectors.
Yeah.
But those infrastructure challenges, especially with electricity, those are real.
They're serious.
And they need to be addressed.
For sure, for sure.
Now, in terms of the national impact, the focus on Africa's potential, that's huge.
Right.
Boosting manufacturing, creating jobs, that could really benefit the whole country.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a mixed bag, right? Exciting possibilities, but also some serious roadblocks.
Yeah, it's a complex situation.
It is, for sure. So if you had to pick one factor, what would be the most critical in determining whether adenine succeeds?
I think it comes down to execution.
Okay.
Can they actually implement these plans effectively? And can they fix those infrastructure problems, especially the electricity issue?
It's the foundation, right?
It is. It is.
Without that, nothing else really matters.
Exactly.
That's a great point to end on. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today on the Unseen Wisdom.
You're welcome.
We hope this deep dive has been helpful for all of you listening. It's a lot to process, but it's important to understand these developments and what they could mean for Gauteng and for South Africa. If you found this discussion valuable, please do us a favor and like, comment, and subscribe to The Unseen Wisdom. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into the news that matters. Until then, thanks for listening.